Hello, my name is Ellen Schwartz, and I am the Director of Legal Resources at the Middlesex County Family Justice Center, a part of Women Aware. This law video series project is co-sponsored by the New Jersey State Bar Foundation and made possible through funding from the IOLTA Fund of the Bar of New Jersey.
Hi, I'm Ileana Vazquez, Advocate Coordinator at the Center for Empowerment. In this video, I will be sharing information about sexual violence services, and I hope you find it useful.
Ileana, what is considered sexual violence?
So sexual violence is any form of unwanted, unwelcomed, or non-consensual sexual attention. We serve survivors of all types of sexual violence, regardless of when it occurred. Clients of the center may be dealing with a recent sexual assault, perhaps deciding whether they want to report to police, or needing support through the legal process. They may be trying to heal from the impact of a sexual assault earlier in life, or as a child, dealing with sexual harassment at work, or perhaps a former partner shared intimate photos or videos of them.
And what kind of support and services does Center for Empowerment provide victims, survivors of sexual violence?
So we have a 24-hour hotline, which is usually the first point of contact. We have confidential sexual violence advocates, many of whom are volunteers from the community, available 24 hours a day to support someone if they just want to talk, to explain legal options, or if they want someone with them as they report to law enforcement or have a forensic examination. We provide case management, individual counseling, and support groups. And we have an arts and wellness program that aims to help survivors achieve overall wellness and learn new coping skills through creative and expressive therapy. Some of our programs in the past have included gardening, yoga, photography, music therapy, storytelling, and more.
So can you share with us what approaches do you use in counseling therapy services?
Sure. So our approach with any survivor we work with starts with empowerment. Survivors have had power and control taken away from them. So in every interaction, we do our best to give that control back. In counseling, that's no different. We tailor our approach to each client's needs and comfort level. So for some, that may mean sharing and processing the details of what happened. And for others, it may be learning coping skills or even connecting with others who have experienced something similar.
And are walk-ins welcomed at your center, or do people need an appointment?
So we encourage survivors to make an appointment so that we are certain someone will be available to work with them. But if someone walks in, there is usually someone who's available to provide crisis intervention.
And how do you address the unique needs of victims, survivors from diverse backgrounds?
Sure. So our staff and volunteers are trained and committed to serving all survivors, and we recognize that survivors from different backgrounds can have very different needs. Things like language, immigration status, socioeconomic status, disability, housing, and many more can all impact a survivor's experience. We are always working to increase our ability to address those different needs and to be flexible in the ways we offer services.
Wonderful. Do you have an on-call advocate for the hospital or to meet with law enforcement?
Yes, so we have advocates available 24 hours to be by a survivor's side during a forensic exam, during initial reporting to police, and throughout the legal process.
And in what ways can we, and by that I mean family, friends, community, support victims, survivors of sexual violence?
Sure. So the very first step is to believe survivors of sexual violence and support them in making their own decisions on how to deal with the assault, including whether to report to law enforcement, get counseling, and more. Reassuring them that they are not to blame and that they did nothing wrong is so important, and letting them know that services are available if and when they are ready.
If someone calls the center, do they have to report to law enforcement?
So our services are confidential, and we support all survivors in making the decision that is best for them. It is their choice whether to report to police, and we understand that there are many reasons why someone may or may not want to make a report. If a survivor does not want to report to police but has concerns about their safety, they may be eligible for a protection order. You can provide some more information on this option, and survivors can reach out to advocates at the Center for Empowerment for support in applying.
Thank you, Ileana. Before we explore the details of the SASPA statute, It's important to know that the New Jersey State Legislature has voted to expand the scope of SASPA relief effective January 24th, 2024. So the information that we're providing you right now is accurate as of today, but you should be aware that the law will change in January. We will include information about the upcoming changes during this presentation. In fact, the name of the act is going to change, and instead of the Sexual Assault Survivors Protection Act, or SASPA as we say, it will be known as VASPA, Victims Assistance Survivor Protection Act. So currently, as we previously discussed, SASPA is a law that protects victims from any form of unwanted, unwelcomed, or non-consensual sexual attention. The revised law adds stalking and cyber harassment as offenses for which you can obtain a temporary protective order. So the first issue that a court has to consider in a SASPA case is whether consent was given by the victim for the contact. The second issue is whether there's a future risk to the safety of the victim. A victim will be asked to explain to the court how they perceive that there will be a future risk. And again, this will be true under the revised statute for stalking and cyber harassment. People may wonder how SASPA is different from a domestic violence restraining order. Any victim of a sexual offense who is not eligible for a domestic violence restraining order can apply for a protective order regardless of whether or not they knew the offender. A victim can obtain a protective order against a neighbor, a coworker, or even a stranger. The offender must be over the age of 18. Temporary protective orders, or TPOs, can be obtained at your county courthouse between 8:30 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. on the dates that the court is open. If the court is closed, you will not be able to get a TPO. Once a TPO is entered, a copy will be sent to the police department in the municipality where the victim resides, to the sheriff of the county where the offender resides, so that the offender can be served. In terms of what happens next, a hearing will then be scheduled before a judge, usually within 10 days. The judge will determine whether or not your TPO should become an FPO, which is a final protective order. There are two things that a judge must consider, as previously mentioned: the sexual offense committed and the possibility of future risk to the victim's safety or well-being. A victim may have some concerns in applying for an order under SASPA, and some of those may include if the victim was intoxicated. That will not cause a court to deny the order. Also, a victim is not required to leave the location of the assault in order to avoid the unwanted contact. The fact that there is no physical injury will not impact the victim's right to obtain an order. Also, filing an application under SASPA is not the same as a criminal matter. And most importantly, a trial may not involve any testimony regarding the victim's previous sexual conduct, nor what she was wearing when the incident occurred. SASPA orders in New Jersey are permanent. It lasts for the victim's lifetime unless a new court order is entered. The order is placed on a registry, which is confidential and only accessible to the court and law enforcement. The Administrative Office of the Courts will also maintain a central registry for all people who have had protective orders entered against them and for anyone who has violated a protective order. So the effect of a final protective order is pretty broad. If granted, an FBO can prohibit an offender from committing any such act in the future. It can prohibit the offender from entering the residence, property, school, or workplace of the victim or any household members. It can prohibit the offender from stalking, following, harassing, or threatening to harm, follow, or harass the victim. And finally, it can prohibit the offender from initiating contact designed to alarm the victim, including in person, in writing, by telephone, or by electronic device, as well as other relief. As a final note, as part of the revised law, the rules for obtaining a permit to purchase a handgun have also changed. Under the new law, anyone who is subject to or has violated a temporary or final protective order will be denied a permit to purchase a handgun and will be denied a firearms purchaser identification card. Thank you for joining us today.